Is my screen is visible to all of you students? Yes, student. Is it visible to all of you? Okay. So we'll start our today's session with the last session recap. Okay. So we have completed our unit number 1 here for the last session. Okay. So just let me know what exactly we have covered in our last unit. Where we have seen the views of software development, where we have seen the traditional approach or what exactly the difference between the traditional system development methodology and object-oriented analysis and design. Okay, and at the same time we have seen the unified approach, which is to be nothing but we have seen object-oriented analysis, object-oriented design, then iterative development and continuous testing like that. So also at the same time, I have introduced the unified modeling language, which is nothing but our UML. Okay. So now let's start with our today's session with the help of our unit number 2. So in the unit number 2, what exactly we are doing here? So we are understanding the functional modeling. In the functional modeling, we have to understand the object-oriented analysis process, where we have to understand the use case modeling. We have to identify here the actors. We have to identify the actors which is to be get classified with the help of classification and with the help of generalization, where we can use the identify our use case, where we how the use case is going to communicate between the actor and the use case, that we have to see in this unit. And we have to use some association between the which is going to be used for the which include and extend the association, where we are writing the formal use cases, and in the use case scenario we have to understand some realization part, right? So when you consider the use case approach to object oriented analysis and the object oriented analysis process, what exactly we want to do here? We just want to identify the actors, we want to identify the use cases, and according to that we have to do the document. So this is basically the goal of this particular unit. So what do you mean by analysis here? So basically analysis is a process basically to perform, or we can consider we are having the problem statement. We identify the problem statement with the help of our own understanding, where we have to understand the process where we're transferring a particular problem statement from fuzzy set of facts and myths into a coherent statement of the system requirement. So that we have already done in our unit number 1, where we understand our system requirement, and now we are moving to capture our main objective of the analysis, which is nothing but whenever we are considering the object oriented analysis for a particular system requirement, then we have to understand the complete flow of my system, right? It should be unambiguous and it consists of a particular picture of that particular requirement and the system, so that the user can, or we can say programmer can able to understand for what exactly he want to develop or she wants to develop. So what the system must do to satisfy the user's requirements and needs, that we have seen our requirement analysis, so that we want to perform with the help of this analysis first. So what, where we have to start, or what exactly we want to do for this particular analysis, then that time we have to understand this particular question with the help of examination. So what exactly we are doing? We are examining our system, existing system, with the help of documentation part. That means through the SRS, we can able to understand what exactly the need of the customer is, or what exactly the user wants. And from that, we can able to understand that particular software requirement through the process, where we consider we are taking the interviews, we are assigning some questionnaires, and from the observation, we can identify that this is the requirement and we have to perform the task for our designing point of view. That is nothing but our object oriented designing model. So what are the different difficulties we are facing here? So basically this is the most important aspects according to the terms of, if I'm considering software engineering, then that is given with the help of requirements, right? So when I consider what are the difficulties you are facing while you are gathering that particular requirement, so there are three most common sources of requirements where we can consider the difficulties are going to be considered here, which is nothing but incomplete requirement. The most important part where we have to understand the requirement, then and then only I can able to perform the task. But if the requirement is incomplete, then I cannot able to understand that part. The second one is we have to understand the fuzzy descriptions, but in the form of we require very fast responses, right? So when the description is not properly given for that particular requirement, then I cannot able to perform that particular task. And there are something which is to be not required from the end user, and I'm adding that requirement in the form of features, then that is again comes under difficulty. So it is unneeded features if I'm going to perform, then it is comes under difficulty. So now let's understand how we are going to remove this particular difficulty with the help of object oriented analysis process, which is called as a OOA. The process consists of the steps where we have to identify first actor. We have to know who are using this particular system, right? So already we have performed this task in our first assignment, right? So on this particular basis, we have to understand the actors, or in the case of new system, if I'm going to develop a whole new system, there are two ways we can perform this particular task. One is existing system is there and I'm going to modify that system, and second one is there is nothing is to be built in that particular system and I'm adding new feature. Then existing system is not able to consider here. That means the features are going to be added newly. So that is comes under new system. So we will using that particular system with the help of identifying the actors. This is the most important part, and that is to be developed with the help of business process model using UML activity diagram, and that is to be developed by simple process model. So this is just simple application wherever we are considering any type of things which is going to be developed with for the particular software, then we have to understand the UML. Okay, so in that UML, basically we have to understand the use cases. We are required to develop the use cases. So what exactly the use cases are? So use cases provides us a comprehensive documentation of that particular system under the study. That means I require to perform that task with the help of my knowledge, with the help of my experience, and with the help of that I can able to write that particular use case. That means it gives me actual representation or what exactly the users are doing with that particular system, that I can able to understand with the help of developing the use cases. So in this case, if a new system I'm going to develop, then what users will be doing with that particular system, that I have to understand with the help of use cases. So now let's understand what exactly we require to do. So we are required to do the interaction diagrams over here. So we have to prepare the interaction diagrams where we have to determine the sequence. The sequence is nothing but the flow of your system, how my system will react to that particular input, so that it is going to gives me the flow of that particular system. So that is determined by the sequence. And then second one is developing the collaboration diagram. So this is things to be I have to perform with the help of the that particular UML. So when I say particular static UML class diagram, then we have to understand the classification, where we have to identify the classes, where I have to identify the relationship between them, I have to identify the attributes in that, and I have to identify the methods. Basically, I am performing this task with the help of object-oriented part. So that is the most important thing, so that we have seen in our object-oriented decomposition why this system is comes into the development part where we are using the object-oriented analysis, right? So that time you have to identify the classification, and that is to be going to develop with the help of static UML class diagram. Now here I found to understand the object-oriented analysis, which is to be used in an iterative way, and where I had to refine that. So already I have explained this diagram in our first unit. Again, I am showing the same diagram. With the help of this particular diagram, you can able to understand how to repeat the proceeding steps, so that I can first understand who are the actors. That means I have to understand the actors of my particular system. Then I'm developing some prototyping. That means I'm developing the use cases, ADs, where we have to understand what is my prototyping part, and then afterwards I'm developing that particular diagram with the help of interaction. That means the use case are going to be interact. That means I want to understand the actors, and through the use case they are how they are going to communicate with each other, that I have to identify, or that I have to develop with the help of use case diagram. Then after doing this part, what exactly I'm doing, I'm identifying the classes, I'm identifying the relationship, I'm identifying the attributes and methods. Up to that part, again the same thing, after some period of time I come to know that I want to add again a new class in my system. Then again I have to refine, that means again I have to repeat that step iteratively. So I go back to the first and again identify the actor, develop the use case, develop the interaction diagram, identify the classes. Up to what part? Up to the whole system is going to be developed. Up to this part I can able to perform the object oriented analysis, and this is the most important part of our second unit. So in this particular part, what is the use case model is that we have to understand. So this is the unit number 2, where we have to understand the functionality of my particular system with the help of functional model. And in that we have to identify, or we have to write out the use case for that particular system. So basically the use case model is representation of the system's intended functions and its environment. It is able to create with the help of use case view, and it can be include first most important use case diagram, use case flow of the events, supplement information, and activity diagram. So all these things we have to understand with the help of the use case model. The next one is functional and non-functional requirement. We have seen for our particular first assignment, we have identified the problem statement and we identify what exactly the functional requirement of my system and what exactly the non-functional requirements. So everybody knows this particular concept with the help of our software engineering, right? So that is nothing but the functional requirement is a statement of what the system should do, right? So that is nothing but here I will explain you one example of the ATM machine. So it is a statement of the system, what exactly the functionality of my system is doing. If you are in the example I have mentioned here, that if you were collecting the requirements for an ATM machine, then some functional requirement, what exactly it is? First of all, I want to validate the ATM card, which is going to be inserted in my ATM machine. Then afterwards, I want to validate the PIN number, which is to be entered by the customer. And then afterwards, if it is to be considered that the system is to be having some, if I'm entering the PIN number, then that ATM card has to be has to be inserted in that particular machine is valid or not. That is to be given in the help of that particular functionality. So these are all comes under my functional requirement of the system. Now, what is a non-functional requirement? So where the ATM machine shall be written in the C++ or it having some encryption over there, which is to be required for the authentication part or for the security part mostly. If I enter that particular ATM card, then there should be system should be respond in how many how much time is required for the response time. When if I entering the PIN number, then how much time is required to respond, or how much time is to be given for that particular validation of the PIN. So these are all considered as a non-functional requirement, which specify or which is nothing but how the system will be going to implement it. So that is all about our functional and non-functional requirements. So up to this point, we have already seen in our unit number 1. So now let's start with the new concept, which is called as a use case. So basically the use cases are a technique for capturing the functional requirement of a system, where the use cases work by describing the typical interactions between the users of a system and the system itself, basically providing a narrative of how my system is used or how my system is going to interact with each other. So there, whenever I'm going to develop this particular use case, then we have to follow some process. The first important process is nothing but to identify or to develop the multiple scenarios. From that we can understand that is nothing but the user scenario, that is nothing written by your own language. So it is to be considered that a scenario which is considered for one or more use cases, where each use case represents a particular functional requirement. That means there is n number of use cases we can able to write for that particular application which I am going to develop, which is to be represent one use case for one functionality. That means use case can be able to represent for functional requirements only. It established the association between the use case and the actors basically. So in the use case modeling, it is to be performed, we can consider the form is going to be considered here, where the use case modeling is a form of requirement engineering basically. So use case modeling is a different and complementary way of electing, or you can consider eliciting and documenting the requirements, whichever the requirements is given by the functional requirement, right? So use case modeling typically proceeds. First, we have to identify or we have to find out the system boundary. The most important point, we have to find out the actors, and the second one, we have to find the use case. So in the use case, what exactly I'm performing? I'm performing the task with the help of specifying the use case and creating the scenario. So this is the most important part I'm performing while writing my use case for a particular function requirement. So in this particular output of this particular activities in the use case are nothing but we have to understand four component of this particular model, which is nothing but actors, then afterwards use cases, what is the relationship between them, and system boundary. So when I consider actors, so what exactly the actors means? Can you able to tell me, student, with the help of chat box? We identify the actors. I already written over there that means the roles played by the people or things that use that particular system. So these are nothing but the actors of my system. In the second part, we have to write down the use case now. So in the use case, I have to write the use case with the help of my UML diagram, which is nothing but I have to perform this particular activity with the help of some notation. So which is to be given that the when I consider the use case, that is nothing but things that the actors can do with the system that we have to represent with the help of use case. The most important part is relationship. When I say relationship, which is nothing but meaningful relationship between actors and use cases are going to be identified with the help of relationship. And the last one is nothing but system boundary. Every system which you are going to develop that specifies some system boundary. So it is nothing but the box drawn around the use cases to denote the age, or we can consider the boundary of that particular system which is going to be modeled. And in that particular part, I can identify this is the boundary of that particular system. In addition, if I want to perform this task for a particular use case model, which provides a prime source of objects and classes, basically, because we are using object-oriented technology. So it is the primary input for that particular class modeling. That is nothing but input to that particular class modeling. When I consider system boundary, so what exactly it means by system boundary? So whenever we consider the system boundary, then we define what is a part of your system. That means defined inside the system boundary. That is nothing but the part of your system. And what is my external to your system? That is nothing but outside the system boundary. We have to understand this system boundary where we have to define the inside system boundary, and we can define your external part. That is nothing but the outside system boundary. So when I consider system boundary, it is nothing but defined by who or what uses that particular system. That is nothing but actors are nothing but that particular users who are using your system, right? So in that, what specific benefits that particular system offers to that particular actor, that we have to understand in this particular use case. So the system boundary is drawn by a particular box which is labeled with the name of that particular system, with the actors drawn outside the boundary. This is the most important part. You cannot specify or you cannot draw the actor inside the system boundary. Every time you have to draw the actors outside the boundary also. That is nothing but we have to understand the boundary is going to be only to that particular use case, and that is to be written inside, right? And actors are outside that particular boundary. So this is the most important thing. Whenever we are drawing the system boundary, we have to consider this part. Now, what exactly we have to see? We have seen this particular part where we have identified the actors for our problem statement. So what are the roles that actor is going to play over here? So it is a role that the particular user plays with respect to that particular system, which is associated with one or more use cases, which does not have to be human. That means where we have considered that the actors are nothing but a particular users who are using your system. So users of that particular system. So it mostly typically represented as a stick figure of a particular person labeled with that particular role of that particular actor. So the role name should be noun over here. So in this particular case, if I want to represent the actor, then the actor should be considered in the stick figure basically, and their role should be defined with the label form. So it may exist in a generalization relationship with the other actors also. In the same way, we can define as a classes which may maintain the generalization relationship with the other classes. The same way we have to represent with the help of this relationship for that particular actor to use cases. So when I say actor, how to represent that actors? So you can see here a particular diagram I have mentioned here. An actor is represent a coherent uh, set of that particular use case which play with the interacting between the use cases. That is nothing but other use cases. So typically an actor represent the role that a human can representing, and a hardware device or even another system plays with that particular system, that is also comes under in the form of actor. So may be drawn as a stereotype class or it's a graphical image of your own design. So that is nothing but if I want to understand the actor, you can represent either this way or either this way. But mostly we are representing this particular actor by this particular symbol. So they are nothing but the connected to the use cases by association between the use case and the actor. So every time when I specifying the actor in my UML diagram, then I have to represent the actor outside the system boundaries every time. Okay, so take a note over there that you have to represent the actor outside the system boundary. Now the most important aspects of this particular system is identify the actors. Already we have done this, right? So in this particular system, if I am to consider who are the actors, that means who are the users of that particular actor, if I want to identify, then what exactly my problem statement is that I have to first identify. So who and what uses that particular system, that is comes under the first question. Then what roles do they play in the interaction? This is my second question. Then who installs that particular system, that is comes under the next part where I have to understand who are the actors who are going to use that particular system or who are going to install that particular system. Then afterwards I can able to understand who are able to start and shut down the system, because it is a human interaction should be there, because it's a human, whichever the instruction I'm providing to computer, according to that only the computer will act, right? Whatever the data I'm providing, according to that the computer will act. So for the purpose, every time the instruction is to be given with the help of actors, and that is nothing but what are the system is going to perform that particular task, where we have to understand the interaction of one system to the another system, and which get the and provides the information of that particular system, as well as what exactly is happening inside that particular system, that I can able to understand within a given period of time. So that is to be understand with the help of this anything happens at a fixed time, and that is to be nothing but to identify that particular actor, and that actor are going to be perform all these tasks, right? So now next understand what is the relationship we have to understand with the help of these actors and use cases basically. So basically, if I want to understand this particular actors and that particular use case, so we have understand this with the help of this particular diagram. They are identified the actors. So there one actor is commercial customer and another is just a customer. So if I want to understand the relationship between them, then I can able to use some relationship, or we can say some association between the two different actors, that can able to understand with the help of generalization, and that is to be represented with the help of generalization between the actors. So if we will see mostly this with the help of example, so that you can able to understand the generalization case with the help of this particular actors. Now let's understand this particular use case, how to write a use case for a particular system. Now this is a representation where I define one graphical representation of an actor and the use case. So the actor you can represent with the help of this symbol, where you can represent the actor, where we have to write the label for that particular actor. So loan officer is a particular actor is representing that particular system. That means I'm developing a system for a particular bank, where I can identify the actors. Is that particular person is going to get a particular loan from a bank or not? This is my particular problem statement. So here I can able to identify actors. The first actor identifies a loan officer, to whom the person is going to tell me that you can able to get a loan or not. So that is nothing but my actor. So that is represented with the help of this symbol, and the label is to represent by with the help of the loan officer. Now here, the use case I'm going to represent with the help of UML by this particular symbol. OL symbol is to represent the use case. Now in the use case, I represent the process that particular loan. That means once I get a particular documentation part of that particular customer, I can able to find out that particular customer is able to get a loan or not. So that is to be given the use case, right? That use case is nothing but the functionality is to be get performed with the help of that particular actor. So that is nothing but loan officer is responsible for a particular process which is going to be find out that that particular customer is getting that particular loan or not. So I'm giving the name as loan officer to that particular actor, and the process which is going to be performed with the help of this use case can be represented with the help of process loan. So here I am just representing the name for that particular actor and for that particular use case. Getting everybody up to this point? Yes, everybody on the same page? Okay, fine. So now let's understand the next part of this particular use case, how we are going to represent this particular part with the help of now relationship. And most important part, I have to represent first actor, I have to represent the use case, and I have to represent the boundary, right? Then we will see, we can simply generalization is to be get performed with the help of that particular actor is communicate with the another actor with the help of that particular class relationship, right? The same way we have to represent in the generalization form. So here I represent the actors, which is nothing but the parent of my particular system, where I can consider the cell system, where in the particular cell system which is to be represent, where I can first get the list of the product, I can order the product, I can accept the payment, and I can calculate the total amount so that the person who are going to buy that particular product are able to get that particular product as well as total amount is going to pay, right? So now here, if I want to purchase a particular part for a particular say n number of products we are to listed over there. So list the products is the one functionality where I can identify the what exactly the products are there. I can identify which are the different types of the products are available for that particular purchase. So the first important part is nothing but I can identify first parent actor, right? Parent actors are nothing but those we have to understand the generalization between from parent class to child class. So where we can able to understand that they are dependent, or we can say there are something is to be happen so that these two actors are totally depend on the parent class. So we have seen this particular concept in our inheritance, that the parent class and child class, right? So that the same concept we are applying for this particular generalization, where if I want to get a dependent actor, then I can able to perform with the help of this generalization concept. So there are three actors, one is parent actors, and there are two actors, which is nothing but one is the customer who are purchasing that particular product, and another is sales agent who are just selling that particular product. And the purchaser, which is nothing but the parent actor who is they are nothing but the whole administrator, right? So that is to be get combined for this particular actor. So we are considering here three actors, where we are considering the functionality. The functionalities are four functionality I have displayed here. One is list of product, order products, accept payment, and calculate the commission. So in this particular part, if I want to understand the first scenario, what exactly the scenario is? The scenario is that where there are purchaser, there is a customer, and there are sales agent. So sales agents are nothing but those who want to get a commission, whatever the product he is selling or she is selling, according to that, she will get that particular commission for that particular purchase, right? Customer is a person who is buying that particular product, and purchaser is that who can able to list that particular product, who can also order the product, and you can accept the payment also. So when I want to understand this dependent, or you can understand this children actor, then that is to be given with the help of generalization, and that is nothing but you can represent whole system in a boundary. So the box you can see here, that is nothing but the system boundary you can represent with this particular box. Outside this box, you can represent the actors, and in the system boundary, you can represent the each and every use case which is to be written for that particular functionality. Getting everybody up to this point? Yes, student.